So you absolutely hate barbell squatting, but you've been told that you must squat. But what if I told you you don't actually need to barbell squat at all? I hope this video can help you rethink what the barbell squat is and whether or not it's right for you. So let's first establish what your goal is. Is your goal to be stronger? Is your goal to be more quote unquote functional? I hate that term, but usually what most people refer to is help you move better and be better at whatever your sport is. Or is your goal simply just to look better? It's really important to establish this goal. Generally speaking, if your goal is anything but hypertrophy, which is building muscle, you probably should consider barbell squatting. There's plenty of research to show that it improves vertical jump. There's a correlation between a good, stronger barbell squat and a higher vertical. And on top of that, the barbell squat translates very well to learning how to do plyometrics, which is just explosive movements. So if you want to learn how to jump better, the squat can help you with that technique, and it improves your ability to exert more force upwards, which is exactly what jumping is. However, my channel does pertain more towards building muscle and hypertrophy and how to look more aesthetic for beginners. And the barbell squat is simply, in my opinion, suboptimal. And I'll explain all of that in a second. This is by no means me saying, therefore, don't barbell squat. A barbell squat is a great exercise. I think it's super good for beginners. And I really do believe every beginner should learn how to barbell squat. However, is it necessary? Absolutely not. The first concept I want to talk about is the stimulus to fatigue ratio. I've mentioned that in previous videos before, but you have to weigh every, pardon the pun, or two puns, for those of you who don't know, whey protein and obviously weight, but you have to weigh the pros and cons. With a stimulus to fatigue ratio, you determine whether or not an exercise is good just by seeing whether or not it creates a lot of fatigue on your body. So for some people, squatting is actually not that fatiguing. Um, However, for most people, it is. And there's many other exercises that are significantly less fatiguing, but can stimulate growth much easier and better. So let's compare a squat to a leg press. The leg press is just much easier simply because number one, it doesn't require as much technique. It doesn't require as much stability. The path of which the machine moves is fixed, so you don't have to worry about balancing the weight. You just have to push. Whereas with the barbell squat, you have to worry about how to balance the weight. You have to have core stability, trunk stability to help you um, balance the weight. You also need to learn the technique of barbell squatting. It just takes too long. And not just the stimulus to fatigue ratio, but you also have to consider that there's many limiting factors before you reach mechanical tension or mechanical failure, which is what leads to hypertrophy growth, muscular growth. Before your muscles even give out, so many other things potentially give out for a barbell squat. Your ankle mobility, your hip mobility, your ability to carry enough weight on your back, core and trunk stability, cardio. There's just too many other confounding variables that can lead to. Should I use the word? Is that the right term? No, confounding variables is not the right term. Uh, More like limiting factors. Yes, there's too many other limiting factors that can result in you not being able to hit your legs optimally. It's just going to be much easier to hit muscular failure and mechanical failure with machines. So that's something you got to think about. Think of it as an opportunity cost. Uh, let's say we use our personal monthly budget. You spend 30% of your budget on alcohol. Then you've got 70% left to spend on rent, food, entertainment, elsewhere, family stuff, medicals, miscellaneous. You're just cutting yourself short. That's essentially what a squat is. It takes up a large percentage of your expenditure. And when you use up 30% for squats, you've only got 70% left for everything else. And it eats up into your ability to recover. So you have to really consider whether or not it's worth putting 30% of effort into squats. Whereas you probably only need to put maybe 10% of your budget into leg press because it's so much less fatiguing, yet also much more stimulating. So, in my opinion, there's no particular good reason to barbell squat for hypertrophy. I know some of you will disagree, but This is my opinion. And based on anecdotal experience myself, when I was doing push pull legs, say 6, 7 years ago, no more than that, sorry, 9 years ago, I'd run myself dry really easily. Obviously, there were other issues with my programming, i.e., I was training push pull legs 6 days a week, but I was hitting legs twice a week, and I was hitting them hard. So I ended up squatting very close to failure, and I would be so fatigued afterwards. I didn't feel like doing anything else after my squat session, but I'd still have leg press accessories, and then I'd have um, leg extensions, leg curls, RDLs. It's just too much. And by the time you've done 3 or 4 hard sets of squats, you really won't feel like doing anything else. And then the rest of it is just junk volume. For those of you who don't know what junk volume is, it just means work that doesn't really lead to much growth, but generally will lead to more fatigue. And that's exactly what you want to avoid. So what ended up happening all the time was I'd get injured, I would get sick, I wasn't able to recover, my central nervous system would get really fatigued. That's the other thing with barbell squats as well. It's very neurologically fatiguing. Um, and I'm not sure if you've ever experienced it, but after a long, let's say a week of heavy squatting, you just end up feeling like you're not really there. It's not muscles that hurt, but it's more like brain fog, your inability to think, you can't memorize, you're slow. Yeah, that's what I experienced. And right now with my programming, I've taken out squats and it just feels great. I don't dread the workout as well. That's the other thing, a mental perspective. A lot of people don't enjoy barbell squatting. It's mentally exhausting. You look at what you have to do in the gym prior to the workout and you just dread it and you go, oh my goodness, how can I hit these numbers? Then to top it off, you're looking at the end of your mesocycle. And on the 4th week, it's even more tiring. So you end up dreading it. You don't want to go. You become less motivated. And it's just an awful experience. Why would you put yourself through that? At the end of the day, people who say, oh, you must suffer to build muscle or you must suffer to reap the rewards, I disagree. We should be trying to find the minimum effective dose that allows us to build a great physique. And it's absolutely doable. You don't have to put yourself through all that barbell squatting just to build nice legs. You really don't. Um, so with that covered aside, obviously I did briefly mention technique as well. For most beginners, it takes a bit of time to learn how to squat. For a lot of people, they don't have the prerequisite mobility, or you might not have the mobility. You might find that by the time you hit above parallel, you can't get lower because your hips are too tight or your ankles are too tight. So then you spend a lot of time trying to get better at squatting, but it doesn't even hit your legs that hard. That's one. Then you need to learn how to do technique as well. Usually that means finding a good coach. Most people will struggle to squat well by themselves. They have, unless if you're someone who's very, you know, you keen on analysis. So you film every set and then you watch yourself squat. Most people won't do that. So you end up squatting poorly. It's just not ideal. Whereas if I throw anyone on a leg press, they're probably going to do all right. It's really not that difficult. You hold onto the bar and push. Generally speaking, that works. Obviously, there's small techniques, but other than that, not pretty straightforward. You should be able to do it within a session. Barbell squatting for beginners and people with poor mobility, yeah, sometimes it takes me months to teach them how to do that. They have to start with a box squat and then a goblet squat. Is it worth the time? If your goal is just to be aesthetic, no. Do something else. Leg press, hack squat, leverage squat, so many machines, right? So that's one, the technical term, technical ability. But another thing, which I know a lot of people don't talk about, is anthropometry. So whether or not you have long or short legs. People who have really long legs and a short torso will struggle with high bar squatting. So what do? They low bar squat. And when you low bar squat, it becomes more hip dominant movement. And if it becomes hip dominant movement for aesthetics, probably not ideal because there's so many other better ways to load your glutes, your posterior chain, hamstrings. Sorry, posterior chain includes your lower back, glutes, and hamstrings. There's so many other better ways to do that and reach muscular failure for those exercises, i.e., good mornings or Romanian deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, leg curls, uh, hyperextensions, etc. If you're someone who has really short legs, you might find that squatting is brilliant for you because it's so much easier to get lower. You can stay upright much easier. It also hits your quads much harder. So for some people, it's a great exercise. But going back to the example of someone who has long legs and short torso, terrible for quads because you're going to lean over. You're naturally going to lean over as you get lower and lower. And when you do that, that means you're using more hips, and therefore you're using less knees, which is going to hit your quads less. So that's why some people go, oh, barbell squats are amazing for me. And other people go, well, barbell squats feel terrible for me. But no one ever seems to consider it's because of anthropometry. So some people go, well, squatting worked for me, so therefore it must work for you. No, that's terrible advice. So you have to consider your limb lengths as well. And that's really about it. Comment if you want to say or suggest anything else that I might have missed or want to know more. But a conclusion here is if your goal is to be more aesthetic, I would just consider dropping barbell squats. There's just too much fatigue. And you end up having this opportunity cost where if I squat, it might take away my ability to do other things like barbell bench better or my shoulder presses. You incur more fatigue and therefore it takes away from the budget, takes away a percentage of your monthly budget to other exercises. However, if your goal is to be more functional, to get stronger, and or be a better athlete, I would probably keep barbell squats. And that's for another video at another point, and how barbell squats really carry over to these things. But for most people who want to look better, which is, in my opinion, anecdotally, I'm guessing 90% of people who go to the gym tend to go because they just want to look a little better. And if that's the case, I don't think the barbell squat is very necessary. That's it for now. Peace.